Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Couple things before we get into our show. First of all, if you got any questions or comments on the show, email me, john@wordballoon.com. Follow me on Twitter. That's where I do most of my talking, at John Word Balloon. You can follow me also on Facebook under my name, John Suntress, and also the Word Balloon Network. Tell a friend. I also am on Instagram under Word Balloon. If you get this show via podcasting platforms, please rate it or write a review if you don't mind. You can write me a bad review. You can give me bad stars, but like me as well as the opportunity presents itself. Also, I have a YouTube channel, Word Balloon. Please go there and subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. I have over 500 subscribers. I'm trying to get over 1,000. I'd like to add more video content, so please consider doing all that to support Word Balloon. And now, back to the show.
Terrificon, Connecticut's biggest Comic-Con, returns to Mohegan Sun, August 9th to the 11th. Meet Billy D. Williams, Val Kilmer, Doctor Who's John Barrowman, and the voices from Animaniacs and Thundercats. New England's largest guest list of comic book artists from DC and Marvel Comics is at Terrificon on August 9th to the 11th at Mohegan Sun. Tickets on sale now at Terrificon.com.
Welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Great conversation with Tom King, the King's Speech. We've decided, I think, on that, the King's Speech. I think that works for me. Should work for you. Good conversation. We talk a bit about Batman. We look back at what he did on Mr. Miracle and the big announcements that happened in San Diego. Adam Strange, Strange Adventures, very cool. Very excited about this. We get some good behind-the-scenes stuff. Obviously, they can't say much. He and Mitch, and Doc Shaner, apparently. That's awesome. I had no idea. I only saw... I guess the initial image I saw was Doc Shaner, and I love Mitch's kind of... All right, here's the idealized, here's the reality. And I'm excited. I think this is going to be very interesting. We get a little bit about the New Gods. I mean, it's out there. And, again, I know Tom is going to be limited with NDAs. I'm not a fool. I realize that. But like I always say, what can you tell us? That's usually the best way to get something out of there. And, hopefully more than just, well, you're all going to be very surprised. I don't know why I gave Tom that voice. He sounds nothing like that. Right now he's going, seriously, I don't sound like that. What's wrong with you? He's going to hit me the next time I see him. And that's fair. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Tom King on today's Word Balloon, brought to you by Aftershock Comics. They are having a hell of a year, 2019, the year of reading dangerously. Hey, did you notice? Cullen Bunn's Knights Temporal came out last week. Very cool. I'll be talking to Cullen about that very soon. And hopefully Joe Pruitt about Shock. And just as one of the creative curators of Aftershock Comics, I really want to know what he's looking for. Because I am always impressed by the fresh ideas that come from Aftershock. Baby Teeth is very unique. Animosity, very unique. Garth Ennis' stuff that he's been putting out through Aftershock. Really interesting stuff. Really cool books, man. And I think genre-bending books. So we'll be talking to more creators from Aftershock about their books. But what you need to do is go to see their full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books to order through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. Word Balloon also brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners via Patreon. Thank you very much for your subscriptions, League. As we start a new month, Word Balloon is free. If you like what you hear here and wish to subscribe, do you think it's worth $1 a month? Is it worth the price of a comic book a month? I hope you think so. If you do and would like to subscribe to Word Balloon, you can do that at patreon.com/Word Balloon, or you can click on the Word Balloon or the Patreon ad at wordballoon.com. Thank you again for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. All right, let's get into it now with Tom King, another edition of the King's Speech on today's Word Balloon. Tom King, welcome back to Word Balloon. As always, a pleasure. And I'm, we're recording this, and it's going to be out days before we will get together at Terrificon. And I'm doing this for two reasons, because one, to help Mitch promote the show, but also this is good because I imagine that our panel that we're going to do at Terrificon will be a more biographical kind of panel. We'll see. But welcome.
Wait, first of all, how awesome is it to be on this show? This is my favorite comic book podcast. You all should be Patreoning John.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Is that a verb? I'm verbing it. As I do. I say this every time, but this is a wonderful show that keeps sort of the history of comics and pop culture alive and helps present creators promote their stuff. And you're doing God's nerdy work, John.
I am God's nerd. I think that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's excellent. Hey, man, I'm having a ball, and truly, I've been very fortunate in the last couple months in particular, and as I told you, I texted you, the streak stays alive with another new Tom King conversation, the King's Speech, as we call it, the King's Council. I don't know if we've decided on a title. Well,
since you and Bendis talk every time he has a frickin' cup of coffee, I said frickin' for all the kids in the cars out there. That guy, I can't imagine his text to you. Be like, John, won't believe what I ate for breakfast. Let's do 3 hours.
I had the best English muffin. We got to talk about it. Okay? All right? I'm like, sure. No, people are like, it's only been 24 hours since I released it. People are loving it.
I love it. I've listened to Bendis talk to you more than I've probably listened to my wife talk to me. I feel like there's some comparable. My goodness, I feel like I've listened to every single Bendis tapes, and I love them all. You guys are such a fascinating combination.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
We kind of discovered each other on this podcast, and it's like, we actually do like talking to each other, so this is great. And he was, I knew I had fun, but then, when I went, back in 2006, he's like, hey, that was fun. Can we do it again? I'm like, yeah. As often as you want, man. I'm like, yeah, you're helping me grow my audience. Are you nuts? Of course. Good Lord. And you're doing the same now. It's pretty amazing. You guys are great, and I'm glad that so many King readers are following you to Word Balloon and then sticking around and enjoying the show.
Oh, well, let's give away all the secrets so they keep coming back.
Excellent, man. Yes.
That'll be our goal for this thing.
Well, let's start with what you could probably say the least about, and that's the big San Diego announcement that you and Mitch are doing Adam Strange.
No, I can say so much more about them than I can say about writing the New Gods movie.
We'll get to that too, certainly. Yes.
Yes, Adam Strange. That's our new big project, our new next thing that we just announced. And boy, did we have to fight to announce that.
Really? They didn't want you to announce it at San Diego?
Well, it's not coming out till January, so there's some fear that people will forget. So they want us to be like, no, focus on City of Bane, which you should all focus on, or
sure.
Focus on Up in the Sky, or I don't know, or buy the Mr. Miracle trade. It keeps winning more awards, and it's wonderful, and I'm proud of it. But so that was sort of DC's opinion on the subject, and Mitch and I's opinion on the subject was like, if we win Eisner's, we're going to announce this frickin' thing.
Attaboy. Very good.
And Dan DiDio, the very kind publisher of DC Comics, also agreed with this sort of spin on it, and he sort of texted us to cut through all the bureaucracy and said, if you two win, I don't care. Do what you want. Have fun. I think that's probably because he didn't think we'd win, but I had the text and we did.
So, did Mr. Miracle win? And you were telling me off the air. I didn't realize. I'm like, did you go to the Eisner Awards? He's like, I won 4. I'm like, of course you did. So, how many did Mr. Miracle win?
Mr. Miracle won 3.
Wow.
So, it already won 2, so that was its 5th. It won 5.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that book, that's the book that keeps on going, which, if I had to give someone like one piece of my work and say, read this, it would be that. So I'm super stoked. Yeah. So last year we won Best Writer and Best Artist, but we lost the Best Limited Series to the World of Wakanda, the Black Panther book.
Wow. Interesting.
And I teased Mitch I actually teased Clayton Cowles, our letterer, because if I was the best writer and Mitch, who draws and colors it, was the best artist, it must have been the letters that messed us up. We would have given you this book.
Way to go,
this
Clayton.
font you picked for page 7. Clayton, you're out.
And of course, we are obviously making fun of it because the lettering was part of the story, and all of the dark side is, and the fonts that he used, and hey, man, I know we're going to talk New Gods later, or as much as you can, but that was great. The picture of you and Anna, and you got the. Was she wearing a Dark Side Is T-shirt as well, or just you?
Just me. I showed up in my Dark Side Is T-shirt to mostly because I did San Diego, and then I did a week of writing movie, and I had run out of clothes. So, like, I didn't have any more of sort of the button-down shirt, so I was like, oh god, I have to show up in the shirts that I actually got from San Diego, because they're the only clean things left. And clean is very relative, because they were on the floor of San Diego, which is probably the dirtiest place on earth. So, who knows how many people tried on that shirt before I purchased it.
Good enough.
Good enough. So that was the one I showed up in, and I was, and then she decided to take the pictures those days, Ava did. Yes.
You looked good.
Yeah, but yes. So we this year we came back and Clayton fixed his lettering problems, and we won Best Unlimited Series. I was so nervous. I was crazy nervous because I was nominated for 5 awards, and I was convinced I would go 0 for 5, and I was like, that would be a hard evening. 0 for 5 would be a hard evening.
Well, and I can also appreciate, because given your past Eisner wins as well, there does reach a point with creators where it's like, okay, you got enough hardware. Let's move on to other creators and let them have a chance and stuff like that. I don't know if the committee thinks that way or not, but it just seems to be that way. Because, my God, Brubaker went through that. I think Hickman went through that. I don't know.
I was talking with Brubaker afterwards. I'd never met him before. I worship.
Oh, that's great.
Hey. and worship. Oh my God,
he's great.
He's a master. He's the best crime spy writer in the history of comics, in my opinion. And I finally met him. My God, what a mensch! Just the nicest guy.
Oh yeah.
And he was giving me advice because I'm starting to enter sort of that comic book writer into Hollywood, and he's been writing that way for a while.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys haven't listened, the Brubaker Word Balloon is the best 2 hours of podcasts you will listen to the entire year. Go back in this feed where you listen to me, and if you want to be a writer, you can't do better than those 2 hours. I swear to God, it's like an MFA in a podcast.
I'm agreeing with you. Thank you. And again, that has nothing to do with me. That's all Ed, and it was back in March. And yeah, and really, as you know, he hadn't been on for a couple of years, several years, and I was starting to get like, God, I hope he still likes me. And out of the blue, he's like, hey, I'm really sorry I haven't talked. I know it's been years. I got some free time if you want to do a word balloon. I'm like, Ed, I email you every 6 months. Yes, please. Good Lord. So, yeah, it was great. And he was terrific before he started. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no. I'm like, Ed, we want you to make the donuts. If it comes down to you writing a good movie or a good TV and talking to me, write the movie, write the TV. It's okay. It's fine. I was saying, making the donuts, man. Got to make the donuts.
Well, Ed won an Eisner that night. Thank God we weren't in the same category, or else he would have crushed me. And he made a wonderful speech. I saw him the next day, and he's sitting at my booth, and he's actually like folding this book cover for my book, which is embarrassing because he was a brilliant writer, like doing like manual labor at my table. And he's like, I'm going to give my Eisner to Image. So I was like, oh, that's so nice. I'm going to bring mine home so I can brag to my children. And he's like, well, I already have 12, so
Does
what's
he really
another?
Have 12?
It was like I was like, oh,
wow,
oh.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That was so he mic dropped me. I was like, all right, fine. I still care. You've gone beyond. You've transcended. I get it.
That's cool. Well, and again, that's true. That's good for him and good for Image. That's great. I love that. And I'm thrilled, man. I can't wait till I don't know when Amazon's going to drop that TV show that he's been working on. It's done, but I think it's a matter of just, placement and everything, so.
No, it's out there. The Refn thing.
The new one?
The new one. Well, I don't know if it's the new, but yeah, that's people are watching it. I haven't watched it yet.
I did not know that it already dropped. I thought it was going to be a while before it dropped. That's interesting.
I feel like it's out there. If I'm wrong, then someone is shouting at Word Balloon now, just as I often shout at Word Balloon when you can't think of some old creator's name that I'm
We gotta, and now, man, you're busy writing movies and TV, and the Bensons are going to be writing Star Trek animation. I don't think we're ever going to get to our Trivial Pursuit. I think it's going to be years before we finish that Trivial Pursuit game we started a couple.
No, you see, you have the opposite thing. I'm so busy writing now. I'm looking for any excuse to not write.
You're always welcome, man. We could do a one-on-one. We could do our own Boris Spassky, Bobby Fischer kind of matchup.
No, that's horrible.
Yeah, we're both good guys. We're both Spasskys in this case. Spassky, who went from being the dark Soviet back in the 70s, and now everybody loves Boris Spassky. He's a good dude. I don't know. Kasparov is the one that's like so like telegenic and always out there like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll play Deep Blue. No worries. I'll play the computer. It's cool.
Yeah, Kasparov.
That's right. I'm getting my Russian chess masters mixed up.
How dare you?
I know.
Let us go back to 70s TV stars, and you'll be there.
As I invariably do, as you know. So no, what can you? I don't even know. Like, is this a ground up Adam Strange, or is it much like Mr. Miracle in terms of no? It's just an Adam Strange story that will fit into the continuity the way we see fit.
We haven't talked about it at all. So this is all very first stuff.
Oh, thanks, man.
So all we've done is tease it out. So I'm not going to say too much, but I'm going to say some stuff because it'd be stupid. First of all, the big thing to know is that it's not just Mitch and I. We're having another artist. It's Mitch, Tom, and Evan Doc Shaner.
Fantastic.
Mitch and Doc are going to be on. I don't know if to call him Doc or Evan. Doc is like his nickname, but you call him Evan to his face. I don't know what the protocol is.
I always call him Doc,
call him Doc.
Yeah, but I know, yes, wonderful artist, great. Did that Multiversity Shazam family issue?
Yes,
and I mean, and it's just notorious for like doing these and certainly so many covers of collections of Silver Age and Golden Age stories because he can just recreate like that and just it's beautiful. So yeah, he's kind of perfect to be working on Adam Strange with you guys. That's wonderful.
And Evan and I worked together before. I have a big old Evan page on my wall on a Green Lantern story for Darkseid War, which a lot of people read. It was my favorite, one of my favorite things I've ever written, and one of the most beautiful comics I've ever contributed to. So it's sort of a reunion. It's nice to work with someone you've worked with before, to kind of know his rhythms a little bit.
Sure.
And yeah, so it's once again. We said this with Mr. Miracle. We'll say it again. We're going to try to do a 12-issue maxi series. And what we want to do, and that's not to say we can do this or will do it, but what we want to do is do something as ambitious as the greatest works of DC. We want to do something as ambitious as Watchmen, as Dark Knight Returns, as New Frontier, as All-Star Superman, sort of in the tradition of those great works.
Wow.
Which is what we hope to do with Mr. Miracle. And I hope with time tells we hit that mark. But I'm not saying we'll succeed. We'll probably fail, but goddamn, we're going to try. And this time, unlike those works, we're going to do it in a different way with two artists doing this, a very experimental sort of way of combining art in a comic. It's going to be something you haven't seen before. And that's even so. It's beyond just being ambitious in terms of thematics. It's ambitious in terms of its form. And so obviously you'll tell, but I've got Mitch, who's I think my personal favorite artist in comics. And Mitch he grounds things. He makes things real. He makes it look like you can reach through the page, and you feel like when you watch it, you're in 70s New York. You feel the grime, you feel the dirt. And Doc is the exact opposite. He's the idealistic. He's everything. It looks like the platonic ideal of everything. And by contrasting those two styles, we're going to tell a story about the man of two worlds. So
interesting.
It should thematically work.
Wow.
If it brings our attention to it.
That's cool. That's great, man. Well, and I've loved, when Alan Moore did it, and he had Adam Strange in Swamp Thing.
Oh, yes. I have a page of that up on my wall.
Oh, wow.
Chart.
Wow.
Yes, I stare at that every day.
That's amazing. That's one of my favorite Adam Strange stories. I loved when
so good.
Diggle.
It starts with, if anyone doesn't know, so Adam Strange, he has to find a zeta beam it has to be in the southern hemisphere for some reason.
That's right.
So he's always like in Fiji or Australia. The southern hemisphere only has two things. Sorry, I've reread the entire Infantino Gardner run recently, so it's like, but in the Moore thing, the beam can appear anywhere. Usually it's like over a sea, so he has to fly.
Yeah.
But in the Moore run, because Alan Moore is a genius, he has it appear it's going to be in the desert. But when he arrives in the desert, someone's built a mall there, an Australian mall, and the beam is going to hit a toilet. And of course, there's some poor asshole who's on that toilet. And so Adam opens the door being like, I got to go save the world. And there's a guy taking a dump, and he has to pull the guy off the toilet.
That's exactly right.
Yep. Yeah, God, I love those.
Well, and that's when we learned a lot more about the beings of Ron and the bug-eyed monsters that Adam Strange would fight and stuff. And it's like, one man's bug-eyed monster is another sentient being that probably doesn't appreciate the guy with the laser gun shooting at him and everything. So I love that stuff. And I love, is Ron, well, I don't want you to spoil too much, but I was going to say.
No, ask away. I know how to say no.
Is Ron, because wasn't it, am I right that, and again, maybe this is just the Moore story, just kind of overshadowing everything, but that they have all this technology, and they don't, like, only guys like Zaradeth, Alana's father, basically Adam Strange's father-in-law or father-in-law figure, he's one of the rare Iranians that kind of understand what tech is left over, but that it was kind of like a previous their previous generations had all this over tech and stuff, and Adam kind of comes in and can just, put on the jetpack and the laser gun and just start fighting.
Yeah, they're a post-nuclear war society, but they're like 1,000 years out of the chaos. So it's like, but if you read the originals, it's all improv.
Sure. Well, yeah, because it didn't matter back in the 60s. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it didn't matter. The rules were not set. So it changes almost from time to time. Now, the stories are all the same. It's like there's some sort of challenge, and Adam has to find a scientific method because he's sort of it's never a shoot 'em and it up. It's always like, how can I find this chemistry works? And then there's a little explainer that Julie Shorts puts on the side of why this works in real life.
Sure.
So yeah, the rules are, and people have played with those rules, so they've gone back and forth. We're going to focus on the continuity established, just like in Mr. Miracle, we focus on the continuity established by Kirby. This will focus on the continuity established by the original, by the Gardner stuff. So
very cool.
Going from that, not take, because there was also the Hubert series, which is one of those beautifully drawn comics.
Love that series, yes indeed.
Gorgeous, but it's very cynical and it's very sad. Adam cheats on his wife, and
that's right. And Alana, they really kind of make Alana more like kind of not as smart, and again, coming from that post-apocalyptic society, so
it's a little misogynistic.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think that would play in today's world, and I get that absolutely.
So we're going to go. We're going to go back to the source material. I don't know if we're going to explain how Jeff Lemire made him Canadian, but that ain't going to fly. I noticed you did that, Jeff. I saw you sneak that in. Justice League International.
Absolutely.
And we're just going to explain that he was lying because he wanted the health care or something.
There you go. That's a good reason why. Absolutely. No, and I loved, was it Shaner's image that we saw at the convention?
So if you so we've released two images, and again we're looking at that contrast. There's one image that shows sort of an idealized Adam Strange drawn by Shaner, and then there's another image that shows a less idealized drawn by Mitch, and that's every cover. Shaner's doing the A covers and Mitch is doing the B covers. Like all comics, they come with two covers basically.
Yeah.
And so in this, we're going to try to do, I've been trying to do this since Omega Men, I've never succeeded, where the actual covers inform the comic, like Watchmen, the covers inform the comic. The cover of every Watchmen is a close-up of the first panel, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to try to do that with our comic, where the covers will actually inform the comic in a way. And so each comic will be Shaner and Mitch drawing something along a similar theme, but from a different point of view, so that will add to the story.
Will there be other Silver Age kind of DC cosmic characters that are showing up?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not called so. For people who don't know, Adam Strange originally showed up in Showcase along with most of the DC heroes of the 50s, and was moved over to Mystery in Space. That's where he didn't. Our book is called Strange Adventures. Strange Adventures was not the home to Adam Strange; it was the home to like Captain Comet and a lot of short stories mostly. Mm-hmm. Whereas Adam Strange made in the parallel book Mystery in Space, we did not call our book Mystery in Space. We did not call it Adam Strange. We called it Strange Adventures because it's not primarily about Adam Strange. It's actually about Adam Strange and another character. who has not been revealed yet. But so there are two main characters. Adam Strange is one of the two.
Interesting. And now for the first time, because I only saw the Shaner cover, I'm looking at Mitch's cover, and yeah, man, that looks great. And I love it. And I love the fact that you guys went back to the helmet with the fin, as opposed to taking nothing away from whoever drew Andy Diggle's great miniseries, because I thought that was an excellent Adam Strange story as well.
Ah, me too. I love that with Animal Man and
that's right.
From the Teen Titans. Oh my God,
Starfire. Yeah, Starfire. Well, you're right, and all that came out of
old.
Yeah, and that what event did that all come out of? Yeah.
That was the end of 52, not the new 52, but 52, the John's the weekly series.
Right, and wasn't Adam blind? Was Buddy blind? No, Adam was blind. Adam Strange was blind, and Buddy. Buddy Baker, Animal Man, and Starfire were along for the ride and everything. And then it was so great when Buddy Baker brings Starfire home.
Yeah,
and it's like, hey, Elle McPherson's staying with us. Is that a problem? And the wife's like, buddy, seriously. He's like, no, she's a nice girl. Come on. He goes, nothing happened. I swear to God. It's just, she's got nowhere to go, and she's my friend. We need to help her. It was terrific. It was beautiful. And, of course, Buddy's son was thrilled. Great. See, that's the fun. I'm sorry. I know I'm stepping out saying this stuff. But that's the fun of having Starfire in her original iteration that George Perez and Marv Wolfman did. And it's like, okay, that's great. I'm sorry. I'm standing by that. I think that's great.
Those were great comics.
But that's cool. I'm excited.
But we're going back to the original costume. This is going to be very much a tribute, but in the same way Mr. Miracle was a tribute to late 60s comics and like the turmoil of that period. This is going to be very much a tribute to late 50s comics and even beyond. Because I mean, Adam Strange is a very poor ripoff of Flash Gordon,
sure,
which is a poor ripoff of Buck Rogers, which is a poor ripoff of I'm sure something else. But they have almost the exact same plot, Flash Gordon. And
no, I think Mongo and Ron are very similar. Absolutely, man. No, I can see that. No question about that. No, and all right, Air is another great series drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and written by Howard Chaykin, of course. Twilight.
Yes,
loved
Twilight. And Paul Pope did a great Adam Strange in the Wednesday Comics, which is also good.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that was fantastic. You're 100% right about that. Yeah, man. No, I love all that. And I mean, really, I'm a huge fan of space opera, and I've got a Gabe Hardman Captain Comet on my living room
See,
wall.
Captain Comet.
Hell yes. Oh, God, yes. And I've got a great Chris Somney Dan Dare.
Oh.
And seriously, they're like two of my absolute favorite commission pieces that I've ever gotten and everything. And it's, can't tell you how much I love those. Absolutely.
We're going back to the Wally Wood stuff. We're going back to the EC weird science stuff. We're going back to, like I said, the Flash Gordon's, the Alex Raymond stuff. Like that's the period. That sort of idealized version of space, which is. John Carter from Mars. That's who Buck Rogers is.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're 100% right about that. Very good.
But that sort of idea, which was a very colonialist idea, was ripped off from people in England imagining what India would be if they went there. Right?
Yeah, you're right about that with John Carter and things like that. You're right.
So that's what we're going back to.
Crazy, man. No, that's wonderful.
A lot of bubble helmets and aliens and sword fighting and gladiators and all that stuff.
Maybe Ultra the multi-alien might show up. Maybe Space Cabbie might show up. Tommy Tomorrow.
Or the Triple I. I just found out about this. This is the comic I want to write. I'm going to get the initials wrong, but it's something like Intergalactic Insurance Incorporated. Have you heard of this?
No, that must be one of those fantastic, within the pages of Mystery in Space, kind of like filler, middle stories or whatever.
Yes, exactly. Just it was in, I think it was in Strange Adventures, but just like Space Museum and Atomic Knights.
Sure.
It was one of those fill-in stories. It ran like 4, and it was a dude. I swear to God, this is true. I just read a dude. As I looked it up, I was like, this can't possibly be true. A dude selling life insurance on alien planets. It was an ongoing comic book series about an insurance salesman and his furthering of, and he would go, he'd go to a planet and be like, oh, everyone here is immortal. How do I sell them life insurance? And that would be the plot to the
Those were the, Roy Raymond, TV Detective, and other series like that. No, man, I know. That was, all right, we can't do violence. What can we do? Wortham screwed us now, and what can we come up with? That the kids like insurance? Sure they did.
Kids love insurance. That was their audience. Their audience are 8-year-olds, and they're like, well, I'm an insurance salesman, but in space.
Well,
print that baby!
You know Johnny Dollar, don't you? The insurance investigator, the man with the action-packed expense account. It's the greatest tagline of any detective show from old-time radio, and that made it to the early 60s, so maybe that was an influence. I don't know.
Well, you watch classic noirs, and the toughest people in noirs are the goddamn insurance investigators. Yes. Nobody's afraid of the cops. It's the insurance. It's that cynical idea that it's not justice what counts. It's some corporate dude in New York who's like, we're not losing that $100,000. We're going to find this.
Get to the bottom of this. Hey, you're right. A double indemnity. Yeah. That's right. That was
double indemnity.
Edward G. Robinson was the insurance investigator. There you go, man.
The Killers, it's an insurance investigator.
I forgot about that. Nice. Very good, man. You're killing me.
Dude, they're all out there. Yeah.
Outstanding. That's fantastic. Well, that's great, man, because I really, really Silver Age DC Cosmic is even more so than, and no offense, because I know you're excited, and I am too, about the New Gods, but really my jam was always the 60s sci-fi stuff and 50s sci-fi stuff that DC was doing, so that's cool. I'm excited.
Oh, no, I love that. I just wrote my final Batman for Lee Weeks. Lee and I have done I think my best Batman issues have all been with Lee, although some with Clay. And I wrote him. I was like, Lee, I just want to put Batman in space with a bubble helmet. Is that cool?
Oh, that's great.
and he's like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, no, I swear to God, it'll be good. If Lee Weeks, you drawing Batman on a planet with a bubble helmet, it's going to be my favorite thing ever. And he's like, all right. I wrote an image just to see Lee. I wrote a comic just to see Lee draw it. It's not going to come out for a long time, but I'm going to love it.
I'm glad you said that because honestly, as I was telling you off the air, and here's a good teaser for the next episode after this one with Tom. I just spoke to Brian Hitch, and he was telling me about his series with Warren Ellis. And one of the things he said is, like if you go back to that 50s and late 40s and 50s and into early 60s Batman run with Dick Sprang doing the art and Shelley Moldoff and stuff, where there was science fiction Batman or the rainbow Batman costume or the all white costume and all these different like crazy things. And Brian is leaning into that, and he's like, in our story, he's going to have those kinds of uniforms because they fit. Like if Batman's on the area, and actually, I don't know if he's going to do the all-white one, but he said, if we had a scene where Batman's in the Antarctic, of course he'd have an all-white suit. I mean, he's got to be able to, that's camouflage. He's got to be able to blend, which cracked me up. No, and I agree with you. I think that's great. And again, that's the strength of Batman, that you can do that stuff. And even, because he said his favorite scene in Superman Batman was the dream sequence, where we see Desert Batman.
Yeah, well, I did it with Joel Jones. We got to do Desert Batman.
Yes, you did. Yeah,
and so much fun. Yeah, Batman. Today I'm working on this issue, Batman Annual 4, which I'm doing with Jorge Fornes, who's beautiful art.
Cool.
And the plot, for some reason, I made this the hardest goddamn comic to write of all time. I sound exhausted. But I came up with this plot where it was like, we're going to look at a week in Batman's life, and every single day is a short story in a different genre. So, like, there's a fantasy short story, a science fiction short story, a horror short story. Just like the idea that every day Batman gets up, but he fits in all of these places, and he's going to go to all these, because he'll do whatever it takes to save the day, basically.
That's
like cool. It's going to be my, I don't know, I really like the concept. One of those concepts, like if I could execute it, it could be good, and if I can't, it'll suck. But I think it'll be, I like it. It's called Everyday.
Well, let's get into Batman because obviously I was concerned because I haven't read my Wednesday comics yet from yesterday as we're recording on Thursday.
No, I wasn't out yesterday.
I know.
Good.
So but I have read the first issue of City of Bane, and more importantly, the story you just wrapped up, which is of course part of the big story, but Thomas Wayne and Bruce in the desert, having their little vision quest,
heart to heart.
Yes, pretty cool, man. No, I love it, and I love that Thomas can push Bruce's buttons, and Thomas is carrying the weight of the Flashpoint universe and the consequences that happen to him and Martha, and bringing that to our Batman's world, and then, you know, kind of dumping that all on Bruce, and, like, you know, basically saying, "I know you, son," and Batman's response is, "Not really," which is great, and a real test of wills of two different Batmen.
Yeah, I love writing, because it's finally out, sort of. I haven't revealed how Thomas got to where he is, but the why Thomas is there. And this idea that, and it's just, if you have kids, I think it makes sense more, but if you don't, but this idea that when Thomas looks at Bruce, he's like, "You are addicted to something." Like, I mean, my issue, all the 100 issues are tied together.
Yeah.
But issue 22, that's why the literal last words he said to Batman were "Don't be Batman," you know?
Yes.
He's like, "Be a better life," you know? It's the scene from The Godfather. It's, you know, "I always thought you'd be Senator Corleone, you know, Congressman Corleone." He's like, this is not the life I wanted for you, and but you seem, I can't break you of this. Like, there's no way I can get you out of this being Batman. And he's like, "The only way I can break an addict is to bring them to a low point," and that's what this sort of the whole this arc has been about, is breaking Batman and bringing him to that point where he sort of realizes that he's addicted and that he has to recover and be something new and better. And as you can see, he thought he had brought him that low, but you can never defeat Batman. That's what's cool about that character.
I understand. Well, and again, as we get into City of Bane, these more incredible conversations with people that he used to think he could trust. And I mean, you know, God, where Alfred is in this whole story, and what Alfred is doing. Good Lord.
Yeah, poor Alfred. Alfred is, so in City of Bane, Batman has been defeated or broken, and the city gets taken over by Bane, who has control of the Psycho-Pirate, which is the greatest weapon in the universe. Anyone? It is.
No, I agree with you. I mean, this is a laugh of delight. It's not making fun of you. It's good.
That's some DC continuity there, man. The Anti-Monitor, what did he get to destroy the universe? He had Psycho-Pirate.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Because this Psycho-Pirate, and look, it's stolen from Isaac Asimov. The best. It's a good. If anyone who's read the Foundation trilogy, or I guess not trilogy, it's like 7 books, but the big bad guy in that, to spoil it for you, is the Mule, who all he can do is control a mind. But what Asimov says, you can control one mind, you can control the universe, because one mind will get the next.
Sure.
And so that's what the Psycho-Pirate is. He can control anyone. Well, anyone except, if you've been reading the run, hopefully you noticed the clues that we had left, that there's one exception to who he can control. And so using that, Bane has taken over Gotham City and turned the bad guys, sort of in his ways, stealing from some Mark Grunwald Squadron Supreme, into sort of his soldiers. And so then there's become analogs for what Gotham should be. It's sort of a mere reflection. So you have, you know, Bullock and Montoya, got Joker and the Riddler. Gordon is now Hugo Strange. Ventriloquist is Alfred, and Batman is Thomas Wayne Batman, and Robin is controlled Gotham Girl.
Yep.
And poor Alfred is still in there. He has dinner every night with Thomas, and Alfred is there because he took Alfred hostage, and he says, because obviously the Bat family is not going to let this happen. He's like, if any of the Bat family comes into the city, I will kill Alfred. And the reason Alfred doesn't object to this is because he believes if the Bat family comes in, Thomas will kill them. So he wants to be the hostage to keep the kids out, is the idea. So Alfred's in a very precarious situation.
Well, and the way it ends too, with Catwoman showing up.
Oh, I know, she's back. Thank God.
Well, and you know, how many more issues of the regular Batman book are you doing before the story? I'm assuming the story then switches to, it's still the same story, but then it switches to the Batman Catwoman book. Am I correct?
Exactly. City of Bane is 10 issues, so it's 75 through 85.
Okay.
It ends at 85.
So that's like 5 months. We got about 5 months. I mean, we had the first chapter, and so we still have 9 more to go.
Yes, the second chapter's out next week.
Okay.
So, so a little less than 5 months to go. And then, so in January, which is 6 months, that's when Batman Catwoman, which is hard to say. Please just say Batcat, it's so much easier. But they want the full Batman on the title because it'll sell more. So it says Batman Catwoman. We just call it Batcat. That's when Batcat launches. Yeah, so the idea behind the whole run was I said from the beginning there's sort of two themes. Bane is bad and Batman loves Catwoman. That's like the whole 100 issues were built on sort of those two pillars. Mm-hmm. So the Bane is bad part, sort of the bad guy fighting Batman part, that'll end at 85. The Bane story and the Thomas story and the City of Bane and all, and of the Psychopath Pyre, all that story wraps up there. And then the last 12 issues will be dedicated to the Batman loves Catwoman, to that romance and what it means for Batman going forward. And it's all to lead to sort of this big game-changing moment to the entire DCU that'll happen in issue 12.
Cool. That's great. Now, the great picture at the end of what would have been the wedding issue where, he says, where Bane says the bat is broken and he's got his rogues. That's kind of your Zapruder film kind of photo of all the players and everything and the people that we should be paying attention to the most, I suppose.
Yes. Well, now you've seen, I think in issue 60, 80, 79, I don't know. There's so many of them. The whole plot of how Bane got to that issue 50 and how he sort of manipulated people to get there, using Psycho Pirate as sort of his tool to capture minds when he couldn't capture them directly. Like that's how he got Gotham Girl and so forth.
Got it.
So that was so that you see that from issue 1, for the moment Batman's on that plane, it's sort of all been a plot to bring him to that moment where sort of like he reaches happiness and he thinks he's almost there, and then to crush him from there until that moment where he's in the pit. That was all Bane's plan, and aided by Thomas. Bane and Thomas have parallel schemes here. Of course, Thomas wants to break him from the addiction. Bane wants to break him because Bane's motivation is, I'm the greatest of all time. And everyone's like, no, Batman's the greatest. He's like, no, I am Bane. I'm the greatest. So those two were working together to sort of accomplish this plan.
Gotcha.
But it was hard, dude. I went to a retreat. I didn't know when it was. It was a while back. It was before 50 came out. And I drew my plan for the 100 issues, which was sort of a slow, a slow climb to 50 that starts going really up at 20. I did it in quarter segments. Like we established ourselves sort of a baseline until 24 when they get engaged. Mm-hmm. So then they climb. They're happier and happier and happier to 50. They fall to 75. They climb back to happiness to 100.
Wow. Okay.
And that was always sort of just looking in those like 4 quarters. And I remember people saying to me like, "Oh, this 25 issues you have here, where Batman is falling for 25 issues, that is going to be really hard for you and the readers." I was like, no, it'll be fun. It'll be fine. It was not fine.
The reaction.
It was hard. It was hard on the readers. Yeah, no, it was hard for readers to read. I mean, Batman is the ultimate strong character.
Sure.
As we started this whole conversation, he fits in every genre. He always wins. It is very tough for readers to see Batman suffer and fall, and especially since I brought them to such a place of happiness. And I write perspective comics, so I want you to sort of, when you read a Batman comic, I want you to sort of feel what it's like to put on his mask, to like feel like the itch on your face from the match scratching your ear.
Totally.
And so during the fall, what I wanted you to feel is what Batman was feeling, which was confused and angry and desperate, and all of these emotions. My readers were getting these emotions, and they were sending them back at me, and I was like, "Oh, this is getting tough." But I was like,
"Well, I understand, man. It's a complicated, long story, and that's good. I mean, you we shouldn't feel safe. This is." This is something to again tease the next episode with Itch. This is something that Brian was saying about the thing that he wants to do with Warren as well, and I do think you're doing that as well in terms of Batman can't always be like. I mean, we know he'll always win in the end, but it should be a challenge. It should be Batman at wit's end, and then questioning himself or not ready for what's coming at him. and not, and yeah. I mean, this is so we should be uncomfortable and feel some sort of danger or a puzzle that can't be solved or whatever.
My favorite comics of all time, are Wolverine in the basement saying, "Now it's my turn," and Daredevil after his apartment explodes saying, "You shouldn't have signed this."
Born Again, yeah.
And I think of even more obscure ones like the X-Men 191 when Spider-Man, takes himself off the X cross and just makes a joke, and it's just
Craven's Last Hunt.
Yeah, Craven's Last. Where you were just torn. You are that sort of Christ figure, and you fucking get off the ground, and you all right. I'm still here. Let's keep going.
Yes.
But I do acknowledge that that can be difficult for an audience during the suffering part. It's always hard because it's my job to make an audience uncomfortable for a time, and then it's my job to make them comfortable again.
Sure.
So I'm just saying I appreciate the patience. That's all.
It's surprising though because I would think that given the fact that you've been bi-weekly, might make it easier, and we don't have to wait those 30 days. And you guys have, for the most part, been on time and everything. I haven't noticed any drop if there was a delay.
Yeah, no, we haven't missed. I mean, there's been a few where 1 week gets pushed back because of some little art thing or something. But no, for 85 issues, we've really been a bi-weekly comic book. And others pass us as new number ones go by, but we always come back up. We've been the best-selling comic for 85 issues too. I can't be more proud of my work on Batman. Even though it was the one Eisner I didn't win. Stupid Giant Days and Your Stupid Wonderfulness. I'm insanely proud of that book and the art and the work on it, and yeah, it makes me sad to leave it. I'm ready to leave it, but it makes me sad.
Who's going to draw on Batcat?
Clay Mann.
Great.
I said Mitch is my favorite. I think Clay is the best artist in comics. I think Mitch and Clay are like my best friends. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Clay is just a freaking genius. And don't tell him I said that because it'll go to his head.
Well, hopefully he'll hear this before Terrificon, and he'll,
Oh yeah, he's going to be there.
He's going to be there as well. Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, the dude, he's brilliant at emotion. He's brilliant at design. He does a thing where he can do the Jim Lee thing. He can do superheroes in super detailed Art Adams kind of way. Mm-hmm. But he can also do that with these. He can also somehow do the Mazzucchelli thing with them, where he can do these incredible motions and shots and little details in his panels. I put out this image on Twitter when I wasn't allowed to. I got yelled at for it, but it was Batman and Catwoman on the beach, and you can stare at the image for hours and see 60 more details that Clay put in, just from the way the Catwoman's foot hits the water and just a little water sprouts up, and the guy's a genius, and he's working with Tomu Mori, so it's it'll be Batcat will be the most beautiful comic of the year. I can pretty much guarantee that, and I'm sure I just gave Clay a heart attack, but. But that's the trueness of it. And the plot for it is all sorts of fucked up, so I think it's going to be good.
Excellent. Good to hear. That's what we want. That's cool. And will that be a straight-up monthly? It won't be. That won't be a bi-monthly, I'm assuming.
That'll be... So the reason I'm leaving Batman, for people who haven't heard, is that Batman obviously has been twice, whatever, bi-monthly, bi-weekly, whatever it is. And it was supposed to run... In 2021, so a year from this January, because of that thing I said before that happens at the end of Batcat, there's big stuff coming, and they wanted to align that up with the end of my story with Batman 100. So in order to do that, just time-wise, Batman had to go monthly at some point, or else we get to 100 too early.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So with Batman going monthly, Batman's the best-selling DC comic book, that means comic book stores would lose their best-selling DC comic, or
half of
lose their basically lose their second best-selling DC comic, which is also Batman.
Well, I'm with you.
Comes out, right?
Yes.
So DC decided to divide it in half. That was also motivated the fact that I'm now writing the New Gods movie, and they knew I would need a little less deadlines.
Sure.
And I'm also doing this secret TV thing I always talk about.
Awesome.
And so I decided to divide it in half so that the Batman story would tell sort of that would keep the audience and tell the stuff, because there's a lot of like crossovers and stuff that are going to come up. So that's going to happen in the main Batman title, and then the end of the story, the Batman Catwoman story, would continue in this sort of way. And I love it. It's the best thing that ever happened.
Good, because I think we were all kind of like, what are they doing?
No.
Don't.
I know. I felt bad because it leaked like, oh, Tom's. I was like, no, this is exactly what I wanted. Because I feel that as much as I love Batman, I feel my best stuff are these 12-issue minis, these Visions,
yes,
Mr. Miracle, Omega Men, Sheriff
Catwoman. Yeah.
And to be able to bring that energy, again, working with my best friend who happens to be the best artist in comics, on a Batman Catwoman love story, murder adventure with Phantasm, I couldn't ask for more. That's exactly what I want to work on. And I'm at the point in my career where I can just work on what I want to work on. So fuck it, let's do it.
So that's cool. Phantasm as in Mask of the Phantasm?
As in Mask of the Phantasm, yes. It's her first appearance in DC continuity.
Wow.
It'll be Cat #1.
Man, I saw that movie in the theater.
Ah, you nerd.
I know.
That is a good movie.
And that is
legit
dude,
great movie.
I was working at the rock and roll station in the 90s, along with the sports station, and the afternoon DJ and I, after his shift, went to the local theater and saw Mask of the Phantasm, and we loved it. And Saida Garrett, who was mostly famous for doing a duet with Michael Jackson, either on the Bad album or the one with Dirty Diana and all that stuff that came afterwards. I can't remember. But regardless, she sang the closing theme song. And, I mean, it was amazing because it was a Bruce Timm project. It looked like the animated series, and I'm sure people who've seen it on DVD or VHS back in the day can attest to that. But in the theater, it was so spectacular, and truly was as spectacular as the Tim Burton movie was a couple years earlier. And it's like, I mean, the acting, of course, was great. Conroy was amazing. Efren Ziboulis as Alfred. Everybody, I forget who played the Phantasm, but it really was this. It felt like a big budget Batman movie, even though it was animated, and it did. It had all the right movie cues that you wanted from a big Batman movie. It was amazing.
Oh, it's so good. I watched it with my daughter. Like, I watched it back then. Like a year or two, I watched it with my daughter, and she was mesmerized. And then, of course, now going up, I watched it again. Yeah, the romance is perfect. It's heartbreaking.
Yes. When he's talking to his parents' portrait. I want this. I want this life. Can I have this life? And it's like, oh man, no, it really, I mean, Conroy nails it, man. And you really do. You feel for Bruce in this. And that's the other great thing, because I'm cool with Batman's the disguise, Bruce is the disguise. I really am cool with every iteration of Batman. But there's a point where he really got to be Bruce for a while too. Yes. And it was exciting it was exciting to watch and torturous for him. And it's like, can I have this normal life? Can I just be, And it's like, oh, man. Your heart went out to that animated Batman. It was amazing.
So I feel like I'm giving away too much, but I don't mind.
All right.
But so Batcat, I told you in the beginning, secrets would come, so you would subscribe to this goddamn podcast.
Thank you, buddy.
So our premise for Batcat is that the movie happened in continuity. That movie, those circumstances, those events, with the Joker stuff being a little fudgy because you can never talk about the origin of the Joker like that movie does. But that happened. That's continuity.
Yeah.
Which I think is the right way to handle it. And then what comes next is what is the story that after that building burns down. I know that there's some post stuff like happened in Batman Beyond and stuff like that. But as far as DCU continuity goes, that's where we're taking up from.
Okay.
As if so he was in love with her when he was first deciding to become Batman and all that stuff, and she came and she crossed the line in killing sort of her father's enemies and stuff like that.
Yes. I'm looking it up now because I have to know who played her in the movie.
Someone offered.
Was it Kathleen Turner?
No. It was some. She went on to do more voice work in the DCU, at least in my.
Oh, it was Dana Delaney. Of course, it was.
Yes, Dana Delaney.
Yeah, who was of course Lois to Tim Daly's Superman.
That's right.
That's amazing. Yeah, there you go, man. the whole thing. Bob Hastings, of course, Commissioner Gordon, just like he was in the series, and of course, Mark was the joke. Hamill was the Joker, and like I said, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., one of the best Alfreds ever. I mean, that's the thing, man. Like those guys, top to bottom.
Perfect. Yeah, everyone's. I feel like most people still hear those voices when they read the comics.
I think you're right. I really think you're right. And that's how I feel about the Justice League too. And that's why anytime Susan Eisenberg wants to go, hey, JLA reunion movie, I'm like, yes, please, because you guys are the JLA. Good Lord.
Oh, 100%.
You know, I love those guys, and women. So the one I never knew, Hawkgirl, I never knew her on camera work until I saw them all being interviewed by Rob Paulson on his podcast, and I realized that the woman that plays the voice of Hawkgirl on the Justice League cartoons, she's in Larry Crown, that Tom Hanks movie about getting downsized and trying to pick up your life and everything. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I know her. And I mean, that's like, you know, it wasn't a big hit, but actually, I like that movie. I think that's a pretty cool Tom Hanks movie, actually.
Well, Phil Lamar gave me my Eisner. He was on.
Oh, that's great.
Small World.
I believe he will also be at Terrificon.
He's the best. He's so very nice.
Susan is like, you know, if you want to talk to him, I'm like, of course I want to talk to him. So if I don't run into him myself personally at Terrificon, then I'll lean on Susan to get me him and everything.
Lamar is at every Eisner's. He's the highlight of every Eisner's. He's always hilarious, and he's always the best. Yeah, that dude helps comics immensely.
Very cool.
He doesn't get enough credit.
So, you know, whatever behind the scenes stuff in terms of you getting the New Gods gig or how you and Anna like connected or whatever.
Ava.
I'm sorry, Ava. I apologize because I'm enjoying your work on the new Essentials that we're getting every Saturday on Turner Classic Movies, and I'm glad that you're doing it, and I'm glad you're doing the New Gods. So how did you and Ava get together?
I can talk so little about this.
I understand.
I'm going to vaguely say that so all of this stuff. This is a brand new world for me, where anything I say about New Gods gets turned into someone's blog. Just like I could be like, oh man, Ava and I took a bathroom break during the New Gods thing, and it's be like, the Hollywood Reporter, spelled with 2 E's, reports the bathroom break has been taken during New God. So I'm getting used to that because that's a little more high profile than the Omega Men.
I would think so.
She reached out to me. She found me.
Wow.
Based on my work on Mr. Miracle.
Outstanding.
And we got together and we hit it off. And she is a brilliant storyteller. I've worked with Hollywood people now, like actual famous Hollywood people. She's not my first famous Hollywood person, and she is absolutely wonderful to work with. I can't express. Just she's a writer. She's a producer, she's a director, and she's just brilliant. Like she's good at breaking story and knowing what's going on. And she's not so much. She's a little older than I am, but we're both from Los Angeles.
Okay.
We both grew up in LA in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot in common. So we talk about that stuff. And yeah, she grew up in Compton. I grew up in Palm. It's like 20 miles from each other. And yeah, so yeah, it's been a joy so far. That's all I can say. It's been a joy. I feel like my job is to link up Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby's this dude who, raised in what he called the ghetto of the Lower East Side of New York, and the war hero, a founder of comics, probably the greatest mind in the history of comics, and his genius with Ava's genius, and I see them as parallel figures and sort of going into entertainment and taking where they came from, pushing the medium forward based on that. And so if I can link those two brains up, we can create something special. If I can't, then just blame me.
Well, so much of what made the New Gods great really lay in the Kirby art, and I can't imagine visually what you guys have planned. I really don't know. And I feel the same way about what Marvel's doing with the Eternals as well. It's like that's a tall order. It's very ambitious that both companies are leaning into Kirby Cosmic this way, because I don't even like the Silver Surfer is, I think, reasonably grounded. I mean, the basics of the New God story is very grounded.
Yeah,
but the majesty of the art is what I think made it spectacular and holy shit, you know?
Well, there are a few problems with New Gods right off the bat. One of the problems is that God bless him for doing it, but George Lucas ripped off the New Gods for Star Wars. And so as soon as you start explaining New Gods to someone who doesn't understand the concept, they're like, yeah, I've seen that movie. It's called Star Wars. You're like, it's all about this guy who doesn't know his father is actually super evil and is the head. Yeah, it's Darth Vader. No, it's different. He's like, what? Just use the dark side? He's like, no, his name is Dark Side. You're like, oh, okay. Yep. And then he's like, and there's this other older guy who has, access to this magical power and needs to teach him. Oh, the magical power, but it's called the Force. No, it's called the Source.
You're right. Absolutely. John Carter had the same problem.
Yeah, John Carter had the same problem where you're taking from the thing people have ripped off. So they sort of see it as a ripoff even though it's actually the original. So that's one problem. The other problem with New Gods is Jack Kirby, the greatest mind in comics, one of the greatest writers in comics, one of if not the greatest artist in the history of comics, not by himself the greatest storyteller in comics.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Stan Lee was a genius. One of Stan Lee's geniuses was being able to take a genius like Kirby and model him into what became the Marvel Universe. And New Gods was the first thing he did without Stan, basically.
Right.
As an editor, not just as a writer.
Right.
Stan was obviously he was editing himself on New Gods.
Right. The fourth world that Carmine Infantino handed Kirby in terms of if you want to come over, you can make your own comics. Plural.
Yeah, and it was right. And this was a plan he had made for the fourth world was supposed to be sort of when they say the old gods have died. That was like Thor. Like it was a reference to Thor, right? He had made this plan to put into the Thor comic and never been able to execute it. And so this was him. This was Kirby Unleashed. And I often use this comparison. It's like listening to the White Album if you've never heard any Beatles.
Hilarious. Like yes, you're right.
Like every issue is a different genre. He'll switch the story, and on the third page, and he'll tell some subplot that goes over here, and you're just it's drinking from the fire hose. It's very unless you kind of know the context of what it is, it's hard to understand what a genius thing it is. And so that's a challenge to anyone who sort of picks up those books raw. Now they're among the best comics ever written. But if you don't understand their context, it's hard to understand why they're the best comics ever written.
I hear you, man. And it's been tough for whether it's been Jim Starlin or Walt Simonson and some of the other greats that have, in the wake of what Kirby did with the New Gods, come along and put their try to put their stamp on it too. It's tough. It really is. I loved Walt Simonson's Orion series. I thought that was really excellent.
I just reread that. It's so brilliant, so beautifully drawn. Oh yeah, no, that's fantastic follow-up Kirby wonderfulness. Yeah, I recommend that to anyone. The new trade just came out, both trades. If anyone's looking to get that, yeah, it's great.
When I'm at Terrificon, one of the panels I'm doing is another panel with Jim Starlin. I got to do 3 of them last year, but he was always on the panel with somebody. Like he was with Roy. And then he was with all the Batman creators last year. And then also we did the Infinity Gauntlet with him, Ron Lim, and Joe Rubinstein, the inker. And it was great. And I loved every conversation and stuff. But I really do want to get into what he did with Thanos and how much of it was inspired by New Gods and Kirby and all that stuff. And again, he was able to even tell his own miniseries with Kirby's New Gods, and I thought that was a good, interesting story.
Oh yeah, Starlin's a master.
Yeah,
I saw him from afar at Comic-Con. It's funny watching him because, like, a few years, I've been in the con circuit long enough. A few years ago, he's one of those guys that'd be like, did anyone notice that genius over there doesn't have a line? And now that he has like an entourage that surrounds him.
Yep, Mike,
finally, I feel people are acknowledging what brilliance he gave to comics.
Totally agree, man. No, Mike,
a wonderful thing to see.
Mike Oeming introduced me to him 10 years ago or something like that, and it was great. And I really enjoyed meeting him, and we even had him on, I think, to talk about when he was doing Mystery in Space, and he kind of rebooted Captain Comet. And I have to confess, not a fan.
Yes.
Because he made him younger, and and it's like, no, Captain Comet should be kind of like Alan Scott or Jay Garrick and be kind of an elder statesman kind of superhero from that pre-Earth 1 era of heroes and kind of represent that 50s in-between time prior to Showcase 4 and Barry Allen showing up and everything. I kind of like him the way he was in Kingdom Come, for example.
I had those Shane Davis issues. They're very pretty. They're very nice. I like them. But yes, I know what you mean about Captain Comet sort of being that exactly. That's sort of go between.
Well, and as we were describing Adam Strange. I mean, he is kind of that Flash Gordon space opera kind of hero, and it's like that's cool. Like he should lean into that and be that kind of hero. But I can also appreciate for a younger audience, they don't care about that. They want to see a young, vibrant hero and stuff. They don't want to see an old man farting around. Trying to be a hero. I'm excited. I hope.
I love old. My favorite Captain Comet moment is from Robinson's Golden Age, which is a brilliant series.
Yes.
James Robinson's Golden Age, Paul Smith on it. And at the very end, they're fighting the big bad, which is like the Superman kind of bad guy. And all the Golden Age heroes lie defeated, and then the first hero to rise is Captain Comet. And then you're like, oh, because he was the first Silver Age hero. And so when my brain sort of clicked in, is that's why he's the first one to rise up and fight the bad guy. I was like, oh, it's as if the next generation is coming. I thought that was so well done.
Agreed, and he's getting the shit kicked out of him, but it's like he's still trying and he's still fighting, and it kind of inspires the older heroes. It's like, all right, wait, this kid's still fighting for us. Let's get our act together and then take care of this.
Exactly.
No, I agree with you, man. No, I always tell James that's probably my favorite James Robinson story. I completely agree. It's so beautiful.
Me too. Oh, so good. God, Paul's killing it.
Yeah, man. No, I agree. No, isn't it interesting? And again, I mean, we're all getting older and stuff like that.
I hate it.
I know.
Why are we getting older?
It's all right. It gets easier. You just kind of accept it. But it's,
Bendis is older than me, so take that.
He's still younger than me, so what can I do?
You're older than me too.
I'm very much.
I'm the youngin'.
It's true. You're the youngster
Just
amongst them.
never ask Steve Orlando how old he is.
I'm sure I'll start crying.
That's the key to your happiness.
I'll start crying. I know, man.
Or James Tynion. Don't ask that. And he'll tell you, I've been in comics for 12 years. He'll be like, how old are you? I'm 60. And you're like, fuck you, James Tynion.
By the way, Steve also going to be at Terrificon.
Steve is the best.
So yeah, I'm excited to see Steve.
Steve's short story in Batman Secret Files. It's I won't tell you, but it's a Batman story about. It's really fucked up, but it's a wonderful story. If you haven't read it, Steve Orlando's Batman Secret Files short story. I was very jealous when I read it, and because I was like, why didn't I think of that's a brilliant idea? And it's Eduardo Riso, who I've never worked with, so I was jealous of that too. So only he's young, he's also writing well with the artists I want to work with. So I hate that guy.
Riso's such a good guy. He's such a sweet guy. I've had the pleasure a few times, and he actually, or at least he pretends to remember me. Oh yeah. And I'm like, okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
So
he's one of the guys I dream of working with.
Oh my God, genius! Oh, good. And I've read a lot of his own creator-owned comics that he's done over the years. Unbelievable stuff, man. No, he's a genius, truly. And I can't. And every time he and Brian get back together, it's like, you guys had me at hello. Okay, Moonshiners and Spaceman and all that stuff. Not only 100 Bullets. I love that stuff. No, he's a genius. You're killing me. This is good stuff. What am I missing? Anything? What else? Because we want to save it for the panel as well. We're going to talk in less than a week.
No, I mean I think that's the stuff. It's City of Bane, big Batman event,
Batcat
coming out, and Strange Adventures and Batcat both launch in January. No, I'm doing my Walmart Superman is now in the stores. If anybody wants to see that.
I'm so glad you reminded me because that was in the back of my mind. Like, oh yeah, we'll talk about that, and now it's finally coming out, and that's great. And I'm, so Up in the Sky, correct?
Superman Up in the Sky, yes. A very unoriginal title, but I love it, so forget it.
It's beautiful, man, and
it is gorgeous. I spent more money on original art than I ever should, and I bought the whole issue 3, the boxing issue.
Oh, that's great. That's a great issue.
I bought 12 pages of Andy art of Superman boxing, which I'm going to put up in order on my wall, and
It's a
and
we talked about it before for people listening and that know, but maybe some newer listeners. I really enjoyed the story. You helped me read a lot of it as it was coming out, and a great sci-fi galactic story of Superman, and great moments. Time travel is even in there, and he gets to experience the DC universe in a very special way, and I love it. And I think. Despite so much of it being Superman, Clark's there, and he's very much Clark when he has his conversations with Lois and the like and everything. It's I really think you nailed it with this book. Good Lord, and having Kubert doesn't suck.
Andy Kubert's a genius of layout and design and everything. And of all the things I wrote in the last year since Mr. Miracle, I think that's my best stuff was in this Superman stuff, and it's an all ages book, which is not usual for me. So it's. And that sounds like, if I was someone I heard on a podcast, like, that's not for me. I want something dark. But by that, I just mean it's accessible, and Superman wins in the end. It just doesn't have a sad ending like most of my stuff has.
It's true. No, it's an evergreen. I mean, again, that's what Hitch and I were talking about, and much like Bendis and Nick Darrington's Batman, it's. So I would tell people, having read both, don't be afraid of the all ages thing, or it's not going to be kind of a bullshit story. It's a good story, but it's a story you can hand to a 12-year-old, and they can enjoy it as well, which is good. That's what there should be. There should be more comics like that. That's fantastic.
Well, I feel like when I was 12, I was already reading Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns and stuff. So I had some darkness. There's some darkness in this book, but I can't love that book more. It was just an excuse every month to write a 12-page short story about Superman without limits. There was no limits to it because it wasn't in continuity. It was just, and I had the best artist at Andy Kubert who could do anything. So I just told these just very pure Superman stories where Superman's the hero. Not my favorite part, but the funny part of it. So my whole story is a girl gets kidnapped, taken into space, and Superman's trying to find her. It's like The Search, right? Because all I do is steal from old movies. And I'm going to spoil it for the end. So all the secrets are in this podcast. He's going to find the girl in the end, okay, guys?
But it's the journey.
It's the journey. I know. And so as he goes along, each adventure sort of changes him, and you see who he is as Superman, and what he will do to find this girl. That's what the whole story's about. Just like in the Searchers, they do find the girl in the end too. I'm spoiling that for you too, but just to watch the movie, it's still good. I was at some con. I do so many cons. Who knows what it was? Baltimore maybe or something. And it was like 2 a.m. And once again I was inebriated. And I saw Dan DiDio by the elevators. And Dan's like, Tom, come here. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get fired. This is it. This is the end of it. I don't know what I did wrong, but it's gonna be. He puts his arm around me, and I won't say whether he was sober or drunk, but he was drunk. And he goes, Tom, I know you like those dark stories. I was like, yeah, no, I do the dark story occasionally. And he's like, if you want, because you're my friend, you can kill that little girl at the end. I was like, Dad, it's Superman. He's got to save the day at the end of the story. Can you imagine he shows up in issue 12 and there's just a dead
the
girl?
end.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah, no, downer.
Yeah.
Downer.
I was like, no, I think I'm going to go the other way with this one.
As Rucka always said, you Superman, the boats will bounce off his chest, but you could break his heart, and that would certainly break Superman's heart. So I can see that as a choice. I was watching John Campea, one of the YouTubers, and John is a real legit Superman fan, and it was so interesting because I think I forget what rumor came out or whatever, but they were kind of revisiting Man of Steel. And he, he's a big defender of Man of Steel, and his whole point is it was the most real-world interpretation of Superman. And he's like, don't get me wrong, I love Christopher Reeve, I love the Big Boy Scout, I love all that, but the idealized world of the Christopher Reeve films is a lot different than what he sees as the real world in the Zack Snyder films. And he's like, Superman would have to make those hard choices because of the reality of the world that he was dealing with
I thought you meant the John Byrne Man of Steel. And I'm like,
Oh, no,
I don't remember that being
movie.
so hardcore.
Yeah, the movie. Yeah, the movie. And I'm like,
okay.
I get it, but you see, to me, and in fact, before the movie came out and we were hearing how dark Batman v Superman was going to be, Bendis and I would talk about it, and I'm like, yeah, but he could still be Galahad, like Sir Galahad, and be that kind of pure knight in a world of darkness. You could put Superman literally in hell, as many have, whether it's been Apocalypse or hell itself, and he can still be Superman. And that's kind of the strength of the character, too, is that, no, the virtue is just part of his DNA, period. He can't help it. And he doesn't have to be, aw shucks, to be virtuous. And I don't know if again, based on what you're saying about this story in particular, maybe you feel the same way?
No, I agree. I love writing Superman. I want to write more Superman. I think it's... I put this on Twitter, so I hate repeating myself, but actually it's all the time. I obviously don't hate that much. The idea behind Superman is he always does the right thing.
Yes.
And then you just follow, and as a storyteller, you just follow that thread. If you always do the right thing, where does that lead you? Batman's not that way. Batman's like, oh, should I do the right thing? Probably, maybe not, maybe. And but Superman doesn't have a debate about it in his head. He sees the right way and he does it. And I just think that just leads to brilliant stories, and it puts at the center of your story this just heart of gold, and you can contrast that with the tensions of the world. I love it. When I think ideal Superman, I think of like that middle hour of the first Superman movie, where it's like you're in basically 1970s New York, yet you have this ideal figure, and that contrast makes it so good because he is corny, he is a little aw-shucksy, but he's also powerful in the fact that he doesn't hate that world. He doesn't be like, it's too dirty. He's like, I love this world, and I'm going to be the best version of it. Like I love that character.
I hear you, man. I love when he tells Lois, Jimmy Olsen was fantastic. And he's legitimately excited meeting Jimmy, which cracks me up, man. So, do you want were you to get back to Superman? Because I don't know how much Clark Kent is in those 12 chapters. Again, because he's off in space looking for this girl and everything. Is there a Daily Planet kind of Superman story you'd like to tell?
Oh yeah, no, I do some Daily Planet scenes because there's lots of. I mean, like you said, there's time travel and there's flashbacks, and then there's the famous issue where I kill Lois Lane over and over, which I'm really sorry about.
Did you get grief for that? I mean, again, it's a Walmart book.
Oh, I got so much grief. Legitimate grief, because there was a lot of people who hadn't read it, so they kind of just saw the death over and over.
Sure.
They didn't sort of understand what it was. And also, like, that was one of the issues where if I had thought about it maybe from a different perspective than my own sort of white dude perspective, I think I would have done it differently.
Okay.
So it's, I think it's good to acknowledge when you make mistakes, and I love that issue, by the way, and DC loves it too, and they don't, like, I was like, let's change this a little bit. No, because if anyone hasn't read it, it's coming up in the next one. The idea is, Superman is out in space, and I have an issue where he's calling home just to check on Lois.
Yeah.
And he's way, way out in space, so he has to go to basically a call center.
Yeah, like an interplanetary kind of phone center, exactly.
Yeah, like an interplanetary phone center. And Lois doesn't pick up because she's doing some Lois things, whatever.
Of course.
And Superman, like, it was a direct metaphor for when I was overseas, and I would call my wife. Wow. And Superman, of course, when she doesn't pick up, he starts imagining the worst things that can happen to her, which is what you do when you call someone and they're not where they're supposed to be, especially a loved one, especially if it's your kid or your wife. Sure. My mother would always say, like, if we didn't pick up the phone, she'd just assume we were in the gutter dead, and so, but Superman, like, what does he do with Lois Lane all day long? Is he's been saving her for 82 years. So he just imagines all the trouble she could be getting in, and he imagines her death over and over again. And it's about that pain of what it's like when you don't know where a loved one is, and you just can't, you're imagining the worst thing happening to them. And at the end of the story, I'll spoil everything about the story, but at the end of the story, he of course says to her, she's like, oh, she gets on the phone, and he says to her, Lois, I trust you. I knew you. He doesn't raise it. He's like, I know you're okay. That's the point of the whole story. Is that even though he worries about her as much as you can worry about someone, he also knows how strong she is and that she will survive. So it was meant to the deaths in the story were meant to show his worry and also her strength.
Yeah.
But taken out of context, everyone just said, oh, it shows Lois Lane dying over and over again. But that's just his worry. That's his paranoia,
Absolutely.
not what actually happened.
No, I'm with you, man. Well, and also each issue has 2 Walmart chapters. Am I right? Isn't it like 24 pages of story?
Yeah. I'm spoiling all of these things. You want to know what happens at the end? Back at it.
No. Well, there you go, man. I didn't ask for questions because, like I said, I know we're going to get questions live at Terrificon.
Yes, I can't wait for. I'm going to Terrificon because of you.
Oh, that's really nice. Thanks, buddy. Jeez, that's great. Oh, yeah, honestly, and yes, they're a sponsor. Everybody, I know. It really is one of my favorite shows because Mitch Halleck, the guy who runs Terrificon, we're contemporaries. He's like, I think he's Brian's age or maybe like a year older than Brian. But he's only like...
So older than me, for the record.
Yes, older than you for the record, absolutely. But
much older than Steve Orlando.
But he embraces what's happening now in comics, and he still loves the classic stuff. I mean, I'm doing this Marvel Black and White magazine panel with Al Milgrom and Paul Gulacy and Carl Potts, and I can't wait to talk to them about that stuff because those are like the taboo comics because Devilina might show some cleavage or some excessive violence might be going on in either the Hulk book or the Doc Savage book or one of the Dracula books or Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. I mean, all that stuff was just amazing when it was coming out, and it just I don't know why because you would think again I guess because I grew up on black and white television that black and white comics weren't bad. And the art was just so electric, and the gray tones that they used, and the way it just looked amazing. The Planet of the Apes comic books are amazing. I mean, so that's one thing. And then I'm talking to Steranko, and I'm talking to Dan Jurgens. It's going to be a blast.
I'm just going to follow you around and do it all yourself. That's why. Like last year, I remember being so jealous of you being there and me being at stupid home. So I'm like, because I'm not doing Toronto. I'm sorry,
Fan
Toronto.
Expo.
I've done 10 years of Fan Expo. Which is around this time.
Yes.
And because I want to go to Terrific because I want to just roll around in the comic book of it all, and learn and reminisce.
Hey man, and they got great celebrities. They got Reb Brown, 70s Captain America, which I was delighted to talk to Reb, and it was. I mean, Billy D. Williams is a dream come true. It's that was fantastic, and Robert Wool and Val Kilmer's going to be there, which is amazing. And I look forward to seeing him, but then also my heart is just aching for him because I know he's going to be in the Top Gun movie, and I'm very interested. I haven't heard him speak. I know he was at the United Nations in the last couple of weeks making some sort of plea, but I know too that he's had a tracheotomy and that it's tough for him to speak. So I wonder how they're going to manage that with the Top Gun movie. But good Lord, a real genius, and I mean, of course, I like his Batman movie. I
thought he was legitimately a great Batman.
I completely agree, and a great Bruce Wayne. I thought he was again. The Schumacher movies got goofier and goofier as they went on, but. Batman and Robin's a train wreck. But I also liked it was Batman and Robin was a train wreck.
No, it's so the Bat credit card and the whole stuff.
I still haven't seen the whole movie. I never saw it in the theater.
Oh, I saw it
because it looked so ridiculous, and it bummed me out because again, like I would love to see Uma Thurman play Poison Ivy in a good dramatic, the way they made Ivy in Gotham, or even better. In a real role like that. And the same goes with Arnold as Mr. Freeze. He would have been an amazing Mr. Freeze. But it was just too many jokes. And I like Alicia Silverstone, but not so much as Batgirl. Michael Gough is the best thing about those 80s and 90s Batman movies because he really was such a great Alfred.
He really was. Yeah, they had great Alfreds. Yeah, no. Like you said, although I was at a con with Kilmer, I think Awesome Con, where he did he did pictures and such, and people come to me and I was like, "Oh, you got anything cool at the con?" I was like, "Oh, I got a picture with Val Kilmer." I was like, "Oh, that's so awesome!" And I was like, "How was it?" And they're all like, "He doesn't look very good."
Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. No, I know he had the tracheotomy, and no, and I know that he does. He saves whatever voice he has. He saves it because, So yeah, you might, if you meet him at Terrificon, he may not speak because he can't, and it's just heartbreaking. Because again, he was top secret, and like I said, real genius. Good Lord, those are like my favorite '80s movies.
My wife's favorite movie of all time. Well, her favorite movie of all time is Major League, but her second favorite movie of all time is Willow.
Sure,
she loves. She's like, my wife is a Willow fanatic.
That's cool.
It's weird, and I don't know why I'm married. No. So we watched that movie a lot in my house, so she could show it to my kids, and he's amazing in that movie as Mad Mardigan. I love that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, Val Kilmer is one of the great actors.
Yeah, great leading man. Absolutely, he was fantastic, and I hope he whatever. Maybe he'll be able to make a comeback the way Klugman did after his throat cancer and surgery and everything. I mean,
absolutely.
So you never know. You never know, man. We're our favorite time of the year is starting at Turner Classic Movies. When they do August, and they just do one person for 24 hours, 1 star.
I know.
Today was Henry Fonda.
Henry Fonda. I know. I turned All About Eve was on when I turned on the television. But I've been watching stupid TV shows recently.
Talk to me. I've only watched one episode of The Boys so far. I was telling Hitch this.
I watched one episode of The Boys,
and
too.
I loved it. I love it. I'm gonna savor these 9 episodes. I think it's gonna be great.
It was good. Yeah, no, I like that. I'm gonna savor that. I don't know. I'm so busy. It's crazy. Next week I have so much writing to do. I was just buckling under the pressure today. But I've been watching. What have I watched? I watched everything. I'm rewatching Deadwood, which I heard you talk about Bendis with.
Yes,
so I had to fast forward. That is a brilliant. Although if you watch Deadwood, every single conversation, it's genius level. Maybe the top 5 TV shows of all time. But every single conversation in Deadwood is this. It's one person is really angry at another person, and another person will be, I'm really angry at you for being angry at me, and then the first person will say, but my anger really disguises how much I like you, and then the second person will be, yes, my anger does the same thing, and then that'll be the end of the scene. If you watch Deadwood, I swear to God, that happens maybe like 15 times an episode. It's just 2 people yelling at each other who secretly really like each other.
I've been watching Comedians in Cars getting coffee, and I really enjoyed Seinfeld's conversation with Eddie Murphy. I thought was amazing.
I watched that too. That was amazing. At first, Murphy seemed a little tight, and then he just opened up like I've never seen him open up.
Yep.
Where you saw his genius shine through, and his comments on how Cosby treated him and all that stuff.
Very eye-opening. Very interesting. Yeah. And also, I appreciate his. I hope he does, and I think I've read those stories, and maybe that's why they left it in the Comedians in Cars segment. But if he's serious about coming back to stand-up, that's tough. I mean, my God, those Raw and Delirious are epic. And yes, there's a lot of things in there that are inappropriate for today's audience, and I get that, and I respect that. But this was a different era, and I'm not excusing it. It just was, and those were epic live performances. And just like Richard Pryor did a lot of inappropriate stuff back in his live performance days as well that were concert films. So I give Murphy a lot of credit for wanting to come back and do stand-up again, and I think that's very interesting, and I can't imagine what he's going to do. And he's him talking about working out material in the clubs, and I've heard other comedians say the same things, and it's a fascinating time right now in this era for comedians, and it's not easy.
Well, he looked very sharp in that episode, and he looked very young, too. I hope I age as well as Eddie Murphy.
I believe he's older than me.
Much older than Steve Erlander.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, man. Well, Tom, as always, man, it's a pleasure. And like I said, we're barely a week away from Terrificon and seeing each other and hanging out. And
we didn't talk about Vertigo and Mass.
Oh, if we thank you, and yes, please, if you don't mind, because I know it's getting late your time. I do want to know what you think. It's that's kind of been at the back of my mind for the last ever since the announcements were made. I'm bummed. I can't deny it, and I get it, I guess, on the surface, but I just think both are such important brands. It disappoints me that they can't find a way to save the brands. I mean, Mad, they will probably still put out classic Mad and great, republish some great moments and things like that. But, so what are your thoughts on Mad going away first?
I mean, both of them are tragedies. I mean, but tragedies in the best way. It's watching a character you love come to the end of their story.
Yeah.
And so you cry because, I remember when I first read War and Peace, and I got to the end of it, and I was like, I want this book to end because these people have gone through enough.
Wow. Yeah.
When you love something enough, at some point you're like, okay, mission accomplished. You changed the world. You can take a break, but it still feels sad that you are at that moment. So it's hard to think of two imprints or devices or comics that have brought more people into our medium than those two. Like Vertigo hitting the Sandman and bringing an entirely new audience and creative. I mean, all the best creators in comics today were brought in through the Vertigo label, and
100%.
And so many fans. Probably the only thing in comparison is the Batman animated TV show, I would think. And I say that mostly because I was brought in through Vertigo, so I'm complimenting myself. But I had a very personal relationship with them. I was intern at Vertigo in 1998, sort of at the height of everything.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yes, indeed.
And my first book I ever wrote was a Vertigo book, was The Sheriff of Babylon. It wasn't the first book published, and I'm super proud of that. And they teach it at West Point now, so I wrote a Vertigo book. And Karen Berger, who of course is the founder and sort of voice of Vertigo, was the person who got me off the slush pile. She's the person who discovered me.
That's fantastic. Yeah, man. Yeah.
And so. And then Mad Magazine, obviously, that was that must be the first comics most people read. That's just some little booklet, some little spy versus spy, and you grow up with that, and it becomes part of your DNA, and it's the first thing you want, that you actually want your parents to spend money on when you're 6 years old at the store, and of course it's the most bizarre story in the history of comics that the best creators in the history of comics were the EC creators in terms of a group of creators. And the fact that those guys then just decided to switch gears and do a humor magazine when they were doing every genre, and then that became a huge success is just an amazing story. And that carried through for years. And you're right, they showed us the other side of society that when you were a kid, you suspected was there, but you weren't sure, and Mad sort of confirmed it. You're like, oh, adults are just as stupid as I am. That's awesome.
Yep. And also, man, you forget, and it's funny for all the written and audio obituaries I heard in the wake of the news. I heard somebody on NPR say it, and they're right. Just that Gaines is of course we're not going to take cigarette ads. Of course we're not going to put ads in Mad Magazine. We make fun of that. We made fun of Madison Avenue. They're one of our targets. No, we're not doing it. And it stayed that way for a very long time while Bill Gaines was still running things into the 80s. And Feldstein's contribution, I think, and it's something that Mike Cronenberg and I discussed when we were talking about it.
Course.
And yeah, man, it's it's certainly Kurtzman and deserving of all the accolades of what he brought to those initial issues of Mad. But you got to hand it to Feldstein for really coming in with it with a different sensibility, and he really was responsible for a lot of the classic decades of Mad and running things and everything. He knew what he was doing.
Oh, dude, 100%. Those I just bought a Feldstein signed. I bought a random Mad comic for my kid at just an old Mort Zucker collection.
Cool.
And I gave it to my kid. It was $10. I bought it from a bin. And I gave it to my kid. I looked at it, and the cover says "Best wishes, Al Feldstein." He had signed it. I was like, "Oh,
that's
my
great!
God.
That's great!"
I just couldn't believe that. I just bought it. Yeah, and I of course I'm a rejected Mad intern. I tried to become a Mad intern and failed. I applied there after the Vertigo internship. I was sure I was going to get it because I was already master of the DC photocopy machine, so it was just moving a few floors down. And have I ever told you the story of how I got rejected?
No.
It's super stupid, and it's so this also tells you how old I am. It was the day the Bill Clinton Monica Lewinsky scandal broke.
Oh my God! There you go.
And I had not read. This is a lesson for all you kids out there who are doing interviews. I had not read the news that day. This is before Twitter. I'm so fucking old. And where you'd actually have to turn on TV or get a newspaper. I had not read the news because I was so nervous about my interview. So I went in for my interview. And of course, Mad Magazine, the whole interview is "Are you funny?" Like that's all it is, right? Like, are you funny enough to be here? And I sit down, and it's all blowjob jokes. Because I'm applying for an internship. This is in the time before men learned what assholes they were.
Right.
They were just still assholes then. And so it was like, oh, you're applying for the internship. Are you here to blow me? It was like all that stuff over and over because it was all about the Clinton scandal, and I had no idea why they were saying.
Why are you saying this to me?
I was like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do here.
What kind of place is this?
And I was like, okay, yes, sir.
Wow.
And so I didn't get the gig because I was just a scared kid in headlights. So like, why didn't they laugh at our great jokes? We don't want this kid around the office. And so that was my first exposure to Mad Magazine. Was I'm a Mad Magazine reject and proud of it.
Have you met any of the creators? I met Al Jaffe, and I met Feldstein. I'm trying to think if there were any, and Sergio, of course. Sergio's amazing. Good Lord, Sergio Aragones.
I'm too intimidated to talk to Sergio, and I've shaken his hand. Like I was at a party with Sergio like a week ago, and he was standing behind me, and I just couldn't even talk. It was one of those things where I'm just like.
See, I was lucky. I was with David Mack, and Stan Sakai even was there, and it was after the last WonderCon that was in San Francisco, 2009, and we're all dead tired, and it's Sunday night, and we're all just hanging around this hotel lobby, just talking and everything. And it couldn't have been cooler. And, it was great. And thank God Mac was there. So, yeah, Mac was my in. David was my in terms of, John's cool. Let him hang out with us. And I'm like, okay, good. And, yeah, it was so great. And Stan was a sweet. They both were. They couldn't have been sweeter. They couldn't have been nicer. They were amazing. And, yeah, Sergio, and I'd had Sergio, did a floor interview with him about Guru a couple years earlier and stuff. He's incredible. And, I really want to meet Dick DiBartolo, too. I mean, any of the old guys. I mean, and God, it's been amazing learning like that. I think Drucker is still. I don't know if Drucker's with us still or not. But I mean, like I said, Al Jaffe. Good Lord, guy's like 94, 95 years old. We're still doing the fold-ins.
Yeah,
right to the end, and it's like good for you, Al. Good Lord. And what stories? Unbelievable stories. I met him I love the Society of Illustrators in New York. That's such a cool club or whatever it is. It's like, for people who don't know, it's like the Comic Book Friars Club, basically. And they know what the Friars Club is, now that I think of it. But, they're like a really great place, and they do have amazing art exhibitions of new people as well. I mean, I remember when John Cassidy had a show there, Paul Pope, I remember had a show there, and then, different things that they were celebrating their works and stuff. But, yeah, they had Al there, and Al was talking about, the excuse was Blake Bell had just written a book about Marvel's pulp magazines from the 40s. And Al was working with Stan and those guys in the 40s on the pulps. So, what a career. Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw I went to the Harveys when he did his Lifetime Achievement Award. And Stan Lee had a video presentation for it, which they recorded in. And it was the funniest thing ever, where Stan was, because I guess Al worked for him pre-World War II or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. No, early Marvel pulps, yeah. Al was working for Stan. That's right.
So Stan was telling stories about and Al's there, and he's just like, I cannot believe that this is a thing where people are. I mean, they all went to school together, right? They were all in that one school in the Bronx. Them and Kurtzman, and
I forgot about that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, jeez, unbelievable.
And Feldstein and all of them. They were all just freaking high school students at Bronx, whatever it is. It's amazing that the Bronx produced all of comics, and then just not so long later produced hip hop. It's like America, brilliant American
culture
art.
Yeah.
The best American pop art was created in just this little place, a little north of Manhattan.
Sure.
So my opinion on both of those subjects, I think their origins of both of them is DC Comics made a choice to move from New York to LA, which is good for it integrates the movies and the comics, and there's all sorts of great things about having all of it together. But I feel that what was lost in the move was Vertigo and Mad, because Mad Magazine, famous, I'm sure everyone knows this by now. The Mad Magazine had 3 or 4 editors in its entire history, in its 70 whatever year history, and including their most recent editor, who had been an editor a long time and had grown up under the last editor, has been the tradition for all this time. And the whole staff of Mad decided not to move to the West Coast. So the whole staff Dan DiDio was very generous in how this was arranged and was very regretful this was happening. I'm not just sticking up for him, I was sitting next to him while this was happening. And so the staff decided not to go, and so the staff eventually they let Mad survive for a little while, but eventually it had to end because they were in New York. And I feel like that New York sensibility and that continuity, the continuity, once that was lost, Mad sort of lost its heart.
I hear you.
And I feel the same with Vertigo. It's very much a book that's about. It's an imprint that's very dirty, and there's something New Yorkish about it, and deep and urban. That's not Burbank,
I definitely I can see that. Sure, certainly.
And I feel that the loss, because comic book publishing was born, raised, and bred, so set in New York City. And I say this as a native of Los Angeles and a guy whose mother worked in Burbank his whole life. But there's something was lost in that move, and part of that loss was Mad and Vertigo. That sort of sensibility, it's just not, it's not there. We lost part of it. And so my thoughts is the moves that killed it. Not AT&T, but that's sort of that decision.
Interesting.
That was pre-AT&T. I don't know if that's right, but that's what I would.
No, but that's an interesting observation, and I do want different points of view when I'm talking about this. So, no, thank you. You're in the belly of the beast, so sometimes you've got a better perspective on this stuff than I do. Certainly, and then a lot of readers like me. So we don't know.
I'm so peeved that I never got to write for Mad. I had offers, and I really want to do it with my son. My son's a huge Mad Magazine fan. I have a subscription still, and I wanted to do a co-writing thing with my son, and we even come up with an idea, but now that maybe someday.
Well, there's and I'll be very interested to see how well what Eric Powell is planning, and Heavy Metal with Softwood. And your buddy Tim Seeley's involved with Softwood, so I'm sure if you want to get your jollies over there, I'm sure that Tim would welcome it and everything.
Tim is the best person. You guys, if you're not reading Tim Seeley's comics, there's something wrong with you. He's the best.
Seriously, man, I think he's one of the most novel idea guys when it comes to all right, I'm going to do a book and it's going to be about this, and it's that's a brilliant idea. I can't believe how is this not already a book somewhere? And he's just always been that way. I went to his new house, right down the street from my father's restaurant, my father's old restaurant at Irving and Austin. And I'm like, I can't believe you're in my dad's old neighborhood. This is insane. I grew up in this neighborhood. So.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have a career without Seeley. We obviously co-wrote Grayson together, but plotting that book and hearing his ideas and hearing him keep that book true to who I wasn't at the time when I just wanted to be Alan Moore. I was like, I want to be Alan Moore. That's all I wanted to be in the world. And him saying, this is not an Alan Moore book. This is a book about a guy who loves being a superhero. And anyone who likes Grayson, it's because of Tim. I would have turned it into sadness and weeping. Yes, no. Tim Seeley is one of the smartest guys in comics, and I'm just fortunate that I touched on his
That's
career.
a great book, man. Was it 50? How many issues of Grayson were there?
It went to 20.
Was it only 20? Okay, wow.
Yeah, I got off at 16.
Insane.
I had 16 was my last issue. Yeah. It's funny that run. That was one of the books when it was announced. Everyone hated it. They're like, "This is stupidest idea. Why would we ever do it?" And now, 5 years later, I get fans, tons of fans who are like, "That's that's their Nightwing. They that. That's like it's looked at very fondly in rep, which is amazing to me.
You know, I didn't ask you. I finally finished watching the first season of Titans, and because I kept holding off on that last episode, and I finally finished it. And I got to say, I liked it more than I thought I would, and I was surprised. I told Brian Hill that, in fact, when I talked to him, and I know they're planning season 2, but I'm okay with it. I was never a huge Titans reader. I appreciated the work when it was coming out. And there were certain stories that I was able to get into. But I got to say, I enjoyed it. And again, it was a very different Dick Grayson. I mean, at the heart of it, it was still him. But, definitely a little edgier and stuff. And, I liked it. I don't know if what are your thoughts? Did you see Doom Patrol? Have you watched Swamp Thing?
No, I haven't watched any of them. I know Doom Patrol is the one everyone says I have to watch. Yeah, it's on my... The problem with... who has fucking time?
I hear you, man. I hear you.
I watch a lot of things while I work out, like while I'm running on a treadmill, and Doom Patrol is something I want to watch with the sound. So it's like that's why it keeps getting put off more and more. But I'll get, and also it's not on the TV, so I can't watch it. The way my TV works, I don't get that app on my TV. I have to watch it on the iPad.
Ah, I see.
So I'm gonna get to Doom. Everyone says I gotta watch Doom Patrol now, and then I'll get to Titans, and I'll get to Swamp Thing. I've heard great things about all these series. Sometimes I'm afraid if I watch a superhero series, I'll steal the ideas.
Well, I can appreciate that too. I mean, I remember Seeley saying that's why he never watched Buffy for all those years that he was in Hack Slash and everything, because he's like, I don't want to influence what I'm doing with Buffy or with Cassie rather.
But I'm also I'm perpetually disappointed because I feel like at comic books, like the great thing about comic books is that they live in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Like comic books are not stories; they're suggestions of stories. Like the reason you read a comic book and you see Superman flying, but Superman never flies in the comic book. You just see a picture of someone flying, and the next is moved a little bit. Your mind makes him fly, right?
Sure.
So whenever I'm watching a TV show about superheroes, I'm always just a little bit disappointed because it doesn't match the picture that my mind created. So superhero TV movies are better. I think it's a bigger
canvas
budget, it's a bigger cast, it's a bigger something. But TV shows, I always feel like, it's just a little bit off from what I...
That's interesting. No, that's interesting. And again, I would... when you see Doom Patrol and when you see, I mean, again, I got to finish The Boys, so I can't speak to it beyond the first episode, but I have a feeling that television is catching up to the movies in a really great way, in a very, very great psychological way. And I'm excited for all the Marvel TV that's coming up in the months ahead. And yeah, I don't know, man. I'm thrilled with where they went to in Doom Patrol and when I hear about Swamp Thing, and even Titans as well. And it's like, no, that's cool. That's pretty cool. And I'm very excited about the big crossover for all the CW shows and what that might lead to. And again, I'm due to talk to Guggenheim and get a new perspective on what's to come. So,
I went on the USO tour with the stars of the Flash show, and they were the nicest people in the world. Behind the scenes, wonderful.
That's great to hear, man.
I just want to put that out there. Yeah. They were smart and cool and the best.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know if we covered that last time or not, so I'm glad you mentioned that, and that's pretty amazing. That's cool. What's Dana Pennebecker really like? I love her. She's great.
She's
Killer
awesome.
Frost, man. She's fantastic.
Killer Frost.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, Super High. What's that movie? Super Teen High. I think that's what. Because I watch it over with my daughter over and over again.
Oh, Sky High. Yes, indeed.
Sky High.
God, Tom, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I am always defending that movie, and
I love that movie. That movie's fantastic.
I completely agree. That is the best tween superhero movie ever made, and it's so perfect for kids. And it's great, and it's all ages in the best way, and it's funny, and I love that movie. I absolutely agree with you. That's great, and it's so funny. It'll pop up on TV when I'm doing traffic on the all news station and stuff. And my one of my producers is a good guy, and he's young, he's under 30, and he's like, I never watched it. I'm like, dude, I swear to God, it's fantastic. You would love this movie. And everybody's great in it. Good Lord, Kurt Russell's perfect. And, God, I love the guy from Broken Lizard. that plays the bus driver, and he's the former sidekick. Dave Foley's really funny in it. Kevin McDonald's really funny in it. I mean, all these great comedians are in it as well. And it's so good.
Yeah, that when I saw it, that's when I nerded out about it. I was like, oh my god, Sky High.
Did you ask her about Sky High?
I did.
I don't blame you.
I brought it up subtly. We were stuck in long bus trips together for a long time. And she it's one of her favorite things ever. So she
that's
just like
cool.
opened.
That's great. No, she was really good at it. Absolutely, that's wonderful. Yeah. Very.
She's friends with all the people still, and she was telling great behind the scenes stories about how fun it was to work on it. Yeah, she was super cool. Like I said, they were all down to earth, and of course, Jim Lee was the same. So that was an amazing experience.
That's excellent, man. That's really, really cool. No, it's funny. I got to know while he was in town. Rip Torn from Larry Sanders and everything else that he's done in his career.
How depressing! He just passed.
I know. Oh, believe me, me and my former radio partner Mike North were heartbroken about it, and we took him. He was doing a play in Chicago at the Goodman Theater. It was Young Man from Atlanta, the great playwright Horton Foote, one of his wonderful plays, and he wanted to go to a Bulls game, so we took him out for a steak dinner, and we took him to the Bulls, and it was when Dennis Rodman was with the team, and it was the great season that they won 72 games out of 82. I mean, it was, an amazing night, and we were in the locker room, and the Bulls know who he is, and they're playing around with him and having a blast. And I'm asking him about Cincinnati Kid and Sweet Bird of Youth and all these classic movies that he made over the years. And North is asking him about Summer Rental with John Candy. And Rip Torn loved it. He's like, nobody ever asked me about that movie. Absolutely. What do you want to know? He goes, John Candy was great. And it couldn't have been funnier. And Richard Crenna's in the movie. Oh, God. No, he was terrific. He was a blast. And we were like, what's going on with Larry Sanders, man? Because it was such a long wait between seasons. It's like, Gary does, if the script's not right, Gary doesn't want to start shooting until he knows all the scripts are right. It's like, okay. He goes, it's going to happen. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. We're like, all right. Yeah, it was amazing, man. I'm telling you. And we're going to make those kind of memories again coming up at Terrificon when we get to...
Coming up Terrificon, yes. Come to Terrificon. It's fun. We'll be there.
Man, if you're in the tri-state area, I can't stress it enough. It's going to be a blast, and you'll be able to see on Saturday me having another great conversation with Tom King like we just had one now. So, as always, Tom, I appreciate the time. And as the Batman story gets deeper, I'm sure we'll be talking again before the end of the year and... catching up and figuring out what's next for the Cape Crusader.
Anytime, John. And thank you to all the Word Balloon listeners. At every signing I've ever done, people say, I love when you go on this podcast, so thank you for listening to these long-ass conversations. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, more conversation with Tom King coming up in just a couple weeks because this weekend is Terrificon, and Tom, as I've said, will be there, and we're going to hang out. We're just talking about it, and we will be there for a one-on-one panel, and people have a chance to ask some questions about the Batman run and Mr. Miracle and go back to the Vision and anything else they want to talk about, and this will be great. So we'll bring that on and present that in a couple weeks. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of Word Balloon, brought to you by Aftershock Comics. Again, Aftershock is just having a great year here in 2019. And I should mention as well, more Aftershock programming coming from Terrificon, because I'll be doing a one-on-one with Donnie Cates. And among the things we'll be discussing will certainly be Baby Teeth and, what he's trying to do with that book, and, of course, his Marvel work as well. But as I said, in the days and weeks ahead, I will be having Colin Bunn back to talk about Knights Temporal and also Joe Pruitt. And I really want to hear not only about Shock, but his years at Caliber and Desperado, and coming to Aftershock. I want the Joe Pruitt origin story of why Aftershock, what is Aftershock doing for him, and again, kind of get inside their heads as far as what Aftershock is looking for, what kind of books. It's a diverse, genre-bending set of books that I'm sure you'll find something you'll want to read with Aftershock. You don't have to wait for the next interview with one of the Aftershock creators. You can find full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books to order through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. Thanks a lot for listening. More great stuff from Word Balloon coming up before I head out to Terrificon at the end of the week. expect at least one more episode, as I was teasing. A great conversation with Brian Hitch. Always happy to have Brian back. It's his second word balloon, and it's fun talking to him, and he's a thoughtful guy. And I like when he talks about process. I like when he talks about random things. We have a great conversation. I can't wait to share it with you. But King's Speech comes first, and then we got Hitch. I gotta give Hitch a name for his conversations if he wants one. We'll see. Until next time, thanks for listening. Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions. Copyright 2019.